Hi, welcome back to PMP Exam Express. We have a set of questions that deal with project closure. Let us get you ready for your exam. 1. 2 weeks before formal closeout, newly appointed COO Karen Ellis sends an executive mandate to project sponsor David Harper and you, PM Rachel Cole, demanding immediate project closeout so budget can be redeployed to an urgent enterprise initiative. Operations Lead. Marcus Bell has documented a 3-week training and runbook completion plan with signed resource availability and a staged cutover timeline. The contract requires formal operational acceptance before final invoicing, and the SLAs include penalties for production outages. The PMO head insists the sponsor's executive directive should be followed. Which is the best course of action? A. Refuse Karen's directive and insist on Marcus's 3-week plan, risking executive escalation. B. Immediately close and hand over to operations despite incomplete training, then manage any fallout. C. Transfer responsibility to the PMO and remove the project team from operational accountability. D. Propose a 3-phase handover to Karen and David. 1. Minimal essential services immediate cutover with documented risk acceptance. 2. 3 weeks of shadow support by project SMEs with daily KPI gates. 3. Staged operational sign-offs tied to roll-forward authority and conditional final acceptance. Correct answer. D. Explanation. A phased handover with documented time-bound risk acceptance and daily KPI gates balances executive urgency and operational readiness while protecting contractual obligations and traceability. 2. During final acceptance, sponsor Aisha Khan announces the business owner Priya Rao is resigning effective next week, and no successor has been named. The client's commercial team, VP Sales Mark Ellis, pressures for immediate sign-off to meet quarter-end revenue recognition thresholds. The contract requires an operational owner to accept ongoing support responsibilities. You are PM Daniel Green. Legal warns that accepting sign-off without delegated authority transfers unresolved operational risk to your organization. Which action best preserves governance and meets the client deadline? A. Take the outgoing owner's verbal sign-off and close. B. Refuse sign-off until a new owner is appointed regardless of quarter end. C. Obtain conditional sign-off from a senior client sponsor, CFO or equivalent, with written delegated authority that final operational acceptance will occur when a named owner is appointed, and that any interim liabilities are acknowledged. D. Sign off yourself as PM to avoid delay and finalize invoices. Correct answer, C. Explanation. Conditional sign-off from a senior sponsor with documented delegation preserves governance, protects against orphaned operational obligations, and allows quarter-end commercial processes to proceed. 3. 48 hours before handover, your subcontractor, Opstox Ledadadir, notifies you they are insolvent. Their scope included the operations runbook, emergency procedures, and handover scripts. An earlier approved scope reduction during change control shortened subcontractor QA time to meet deadlines. You, PM Olivia Reed, discover critical runbook gaps during the pre-handover checklist. Missing rollback scripts, absent escalation contacts, and unvalidated live failover steps. The client's environment is production sensitive and the launch cannot be delayed more than 5 working days. Which 2 immediate actions best protect users and the organization? Select 2. 8. Pause formal acceptance, engage legal and procurement immediately, and initiate an in-house rapid completion sprint using SMEs and subject matter consultants with staged operational sign-offs. B. Escalate to sponsor, CIO Vikram Patel, to request immediate emergency funding and resource reallocation to complete the runbook and verify operations before acceptance. C. Proceed with handover and log the runbook gaps as post-closure tasks assigned to the PMO. D. Draft a temporary operations playbook covering critical failure modes only, and push for conditional acceptance with a tightly controlled remediation and verification plan. Correct answers: A and B. Explanation: pausing acceptance while mobilizing legal procurement and sponsor resources enables rapid, controlled remediation. Emergency funding and SME reallocation are necessary to close operational gaps before live cutover. 4. 5 days prior to planned closeout, incoming CIO Laura Mitchell issues a directive that all historical project artifacts must be migrated to the newly procured Enterprise Repository, REPOX, and tagged with new metadata taxonomy. REPOX onboarding for the project will take 4 weeks. The closure milestone is contractual and triggers vendor final payments and project release. The archival team says migration now will cause unacceptable schedule slippage. As PM Noah Clark, you must reconcile the CIO mandate, contractual closeout, and archival controls. What is the pragmatic resolution? A. Complete closeout into the current, contract-compliant repository. Formally document the CIO's new mandate and schedule a time-boxed, auditable migration to REPOX with validation and reconciliation checks once onboarding is complete. B. Stop all closure activities until REPOX onboarding completes. C. Upload artifacts to REPOX immediately without applying required metadata to satisfy the CIO. D. Print physical copies of artifacts and deliver them to the CIO as a temporary workaround. Correct answer: A. Explanation. Closing into a compliant repository preserves contractual milestones while documenting and planning a controlled, auditable migration to satisfy the CIO without breaching contract timelines. 5. During handover operations, originally negotiated a 6-month dedicated support rota with named staff and escalation matrices. Mid-handover, the head of operations, Simon Holt, is replaced by interim head Lena Iyer, who demands the rota be shortened to 2 months to reduce costs. Vendors have already scheduled contractors dependent on the 6-month plan. As PM Priya Sharma, how do you resolve competing commitments? A. Immediately cut the rota to 2 months to comply with Lena's direction. B. Propose maintaining the agreed 6-month rota, but include a KPI-based step-down clause that allows staged reduction after 2 months if defined operational stability metrics are met, with documented triggers and responsibilities. C. Insist the original 6 months remain immutable regardless of the new head's requests. D. Cancel the rota and default responsibility to the PMO. Correct answer: B. Explanation. A KPI-triggered step-down preserves service stability, honors the original commitment during transition, and provides a data-driven pathway for the interim head to shorten support if metrics permit. 6. At final documentation handover, the new procurement director, Eleanor Price, asks you to retroactively amend supplier warranties and SLAs to shift more risk to your organization to satisfy a consolidated enterprise procurement policy. The contract is signed and vendor acceptance was obtained under prior terms. The vendor warns they will refuse further work if terms change without compensation. Which 2 actions preserve contract integrity and closure? Select 2. A. Apply the requested contract amendments retroactively and finalize closure to please procurement. B. Provide procurement verbal assurance that terms will be revisited later without formal records. C. Log procurement's request, escalate to legal and finance for contractual and commercial review, and require formal change control and vendor agreement before any contractual amendment. D. Close under the existing contracted terms now and open a formal post-closure change order process for any SLA warranty changes with explicit risk allocation, pricing, and vendor consent. Correct answers, C and D. Explanation. Contract changes require legal and commercial review and vendor agreement. Closing on current terms while initiating a formal change order preserves contractual integrity and avoids unilateral exposure. 7. 3 weeks after closure, a major client reports selective data loss correlated with your archived migration. New head of data, Carlos Mendez, replaces the previous contact and publicly insists the project accept fault and provide immediate remediation and compensation. The migration vendor, Data Migrate Lendid, claims their logs show successful transfers, and your team's migration runbook shows a last-minute archive filter rule was applied based on a product owner direction. As PM Sarah Liu, what is the appropriate first operational step? A. Immediately accept full fault and draft a unilateral compensation package. B. Deny responsibility and refer the client to the vendor exclusively. C. Convene an incident review with Carlos, Data Migrate, Legal, and your engineering leads. Commission forensics to validate the migration logs, identify root cause, and prepare an evidence-based remediation and contractual claim path. D. Ignore the client's escalation, hoping the issue will not be pursued. Correct answer. C. Explanation. An evidence-based incident review with forensic analysis and legal involvement determines liability and remediation obligations while protecting contractual rights. 8. The project closed last month with closure documentation signed by former CIO Robert Lang. The new CIO, Aditi Sharma, now demands a mandatory architecture review and wants closure artifacts reopened for technical changes. The closure certificates show all governance approvals were obtained under the former CIO. As PM Tom Baker, how do you handle the new CIO's request? A. Reopen closure artifacts immediately and implement requested changes without further approvals. B. Treat the request as a post-closure change. Run formal change control to assess impacts, costs, compliance, and obtain reapproval from governance bodies before modifying closed artifacts. C. Refuse the CIO's request citing final sign-off by the previous CIO. D. Archive the CIO's request without taking action. Correct answer. B. Explanation. Post-closure changes must follow change control and governance. Reassessment, impact analysis, and reapproval are required before reopening signed closure artifacts. 9. During transition, the client's service owner role changed 3 times in 6 weeks. Outgoing owner left with incomplete knowledge transfer, interim owner rescheduled TGDs repeatedly, and the third appointee is remote and unavailable for workshops. Handover tasks are incomplete and critical operational runbooks remain unvalidated. You, PM Hannah Price, need to restore closure momentum under that churn. Which 2 actions most effectively recover momentum? Select 2. A. Escalate to sponsor, CIO or equivalent, and regional leads to secure a stable delegate or formal interim owner with delegated authority, set firm acceptance deadlines, and obtain written confirmation of responsibilities. B. Produce a prioritized critical handover pack that isolates the top 10 critical runbook items and run focused, recorded workshops, and rapid verification sessions to transfer essential knowledge immediately. C. Stop all handover activity until the service owner stabilizes permanently. D. Absorb all outstanding handover tasks into the PMO and keep them on the project backlog indefinitely. Correct answers: A and B. Explanation. Escalation to secure a stable delegate combined with prioritized, pragmatic handover packs and targeted workshops restores critical knowledge transfer and preserves momentum despite organizational churn. 10. 1 week before legal sign-off, the client's new VP Legal, Monica Reyes, imposes stricter data retention and e-discovery clauses that conflict with the previously agreed contract and planned closeout. The original contract baseline allowed shorter retention, and the vendor payments and final project closure depend on sign-off. As PM Ethan Ross, how do you resolve this without breaching commitments? A. Immediately accept VP Legal's changes and patch the contract without review. B. Destroy records to match the previous shorter retention schedule and avoid new obligations. C. Refuse to engage and leave the client to resolve internally. D. Proceed to close on the existing contract baseline to meet obligations, document VP Legal's requested amendments, and open a formal contract amendment process to negotiate phased implementation, cost implications, and legal accountability. Correct answer: D. Explanation. Closing on the agreed contract while formally processing the VP Legal's changes via a documented amendment avoids breach, clarifies costs and responsibilities, and preserves contractual integrity. Thank you for watching. Please share, like, and subscribe.